for another episode of Leadership of the Leaf, now in their third season. More leadership topics to discuss and more cigar knowledge to share with great pairings. Grab a cigar, give it a cut and light, and put some smoke in the air with your host, Dice and Austin.
So we have a special guest with us today, Dice.
Yes, I'm excited. This is great.
I'm freaking stoked. I love this guy. Never met him in person. Always respect his work.
Wait, I have.
Yeah. That's a little bit upsetting to me. Still, I'm just saying all the videos that I got from PCA calling me out. But we have today with us Tim Swanson from Cigars Daily, American Viking Cigars.
What's happening, everybody?
Yeah, I'm so stoked that you're here. You know, your cigar won our Cigar of the Year last year, the Obrigado. And we just love this cigar, love your brand, love everything about it.
I think all three of us are smoking Obrigado right now, right?
Oh, that's absolutely correct. Austin, what are you pairing your Obrigado with?
So I'm trying a new whiskey. It's called the Sexton Single Malt. It's an Irish whiskey. I got it in a little fancy glass here.
Oh, Tim, he got fancy for you, Tim.
Yeah, classed it up. Thanks.
Yeah, well, you know. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, I'm pairing that with a Sexton. Dice, I assume you're pairing it with Hennessy.
Sadly, Tim, I apologize. I was out of XO, so VSOP over here. VSOP.
Yes, sir. My pairing is pathetic. I'm pairing with water.
That's Blue Moon or anything like that?
We'll say that again?
Blue Moon or nothing like that?
I legitimately drink so infrequently now that you probably almost never catch me doing it. So, yeah, I drink very rarely these days.
Oh, well. I mean, you'll at least get the pure flavors of the cigars and don't taint your palate with the other stuff, right? So that's why you're doing it?
I love pairings. I should say pairings are great for cigars, and anytime you can marry two flavors together and find something new and exciting, I think that's a treat. I mean, especially when you bring a cigar that already the blender has slaved over making sure that blend offers something unique and complex, and then you bring together a spirit like a whiskey, a good scotch that brings its own complexity and it's like going to a sports game. Like, you can watch a team train for a game, but when you watch two teams come together, there's a dynamic, right? And every game's a little different, and the pairings are like that. I find myself pairing really rarely these days, and when I do, it's typically Scotch. Duncan Taylor 18 year, is my go-to.
You're fancy. You talk about me classing it up. I mean,
well, you're a Scotch guy. You would get that.
Yeah, I would 100% if I could find it and afford it on my paltry salary.
Oh, you already told me how many cigars you have, brother. You already blew the top off that one.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? So all my money goes to cigars.
That's okay. I'm not trying to push you away from that at all.
I was gonna say you should be like, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, how many unicorns you got, sir?
2. I have 2 unicorns right now.
That's the vision.
And I'll be honest, and this is so. Let me ask you this, Tim. This is completely off of everything. Yep. When would you smoke a unicorn? Because I'm struggling right now to find a reason, an occasion to smoke something of that caliber. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately you talk about special occasions to light up a good cigar, and there's the big ones that only come so often in life. You bought a house, you had a child, that child moved out of your house. Like, those are the times when you really want to light up a cigar and say, yes, thank God, I'm moving on. You basically, it changes your sort of station in life, and
right.
Those things are so rare and far between. You don't want to have a cigar sitting around for whatever it is, 10 years until you figure one of these things out.
Yeah.
And so there's ultimately the question I would ask is, how long do you want to have them around, and then look for things to build up to. I mean, hell, it might be the end of a serious project at work. It might be the beginning of a new craft or hobby, or some people have got their extracurricular activities. Maybe you're doing taekwondo or judo and you get that purple belt. The purple belt's hard to get, so you light up for that. But find things that are outside the normal, like, here's the biggest moment of my life. And I mean, I think life, if you're mindful about gratitude, I think life is filled with those things.
All right, that's beautifully put. Because now I already have at least one thing in mind.
What is the thing? What's in your mind?
So I'm a year out from graduating with my MBA.
Boom. That, yes, 1,000%. The next one you can light up when you pay off the student debt.
There you go. That's pretty much set.
I don't know how long that would rest, and so it would even still be worthwhile.
Yeah. Maybe when you retire, maybe that'll be sooner.
Yeah. Might be. We got a couple questions. I want to jump into it because these are burning questions I think that I've had in my mind, and hopefully our listeners had in their minds as well.
Hopefully you haven't answered them like a billion times already, but if you have, apologize.
Right.
No, don't apologize. That's what you guys do, this stuff like I do. If answering the same question 30 billion times is part of the role, brother. But I'm here for it. Throw anything at me you want. Open book.
All right. So I got into you back when Cigars Daily was, from what I could tell, relatively small. You were just starting your vlog series. You're just starting all of that sort of stuff. So I kind of want to know, what made you get into the cigar business? I know you've done fighting. You've gotten into competition shooting at one point. I know you're a family man. So what made the cigar business attractive to you?
How long are we going to?
As long as
you
want to,
my answers. How long
as you want to be.
We're on your time. Let's make it.
All right, I'm
your while.
This fair warning, I'm long-winded, and any time that I'm in a conversation that I don't have to moderate, I get excited, so I tend to talk too much. But, yeah. So getting into cigars was absolute fluke for me, and nothing that I was looking to do, but something that I loved. I've been smoking cigars since I'm 18 years old, so that's 21 years now, and I've been always excited about the cigar world. In fact, when I was fresh out of college, I would roll cigars. I would buy crappy tobacco online, whole leaf tobacco from this garbage website. But I'd roll my own cigars. I had so much fun. I had a cigar rolling club that I started with some friends, and we'd get together once a month and just roll cigars, the worst cigars you've ever seen. But I didn't have any interest in working in the cigar industry. I wasn't even really aware of the industry or anything about it. I just knew I liked cigars, and I smoked cheap bundled sticks because that's really what I could afford, which is why I like rolling cigars, because I could make more cigars for the tobacco I was buying. And but I was also I was working in vocational church ministry. I was a music leader at a church. And that was some of the most fun I ever had. I had amazing teams and played a lot of music, which is something that I'm very passionate about. Then that's what I got my bachelor's degree in, music ministry with an emphasis in jazz bass guitar. But as things happened, I went and did a church plant with another guy. And after about 2 years, that church plant never really stuck. He never really made it. And we were getting toward the end of doing this church planting project, and things got so rough. I went about 2 months without a paycheck.
Oh wow!
And so I got a wife, I got 2 kids, I got a mortgage, and I was like, shit, what am I going to do, right? and so I literally got a part-time job at a boxing gym, doing fitness classes for mommies and teaching, private session boxing, which I've also done for almost 20 years now. And then, and I got a job at a cigar shop, and I was like, this is like the perfect side work for me. So I'm working 4 days a week doing these other deals. And the cigar shop was just like, God, it was the craziest thing ever. I'm working at this chain of cigar shops as like the part-time rover to give the full-time guys their days off.
Okay.
But this company was in all kinds of trouble. It was a company was in a nosedive. The person running it was ridiculously inept, and I saw an opportunity there and basically presented to the top tier of the company. I was like, I had another guy I was working with. I said, this guy and I couldn't run this company worse than the person you have running it. Like, we couldn't possibly be worse at this. And if anything, I think we'd do you a lot better. And we sort of presented a plan for running this cigar company, and they said yes. And so, like, in a day, I went from being a retail clerk at a cigar shop, to the director of operations for a chain of cigar stores and a website and an e-commerce site. And it just literally like that. And in the same day that happened, I fired my boss. It was one of the most magical, crazy things I've ever done. I said, your services are no longer required, got her keys, walked her out the door, locked it. And I was like, I can't believe that just happened. But because of the nature of what I did and how I did it there, I started in the cigar industry with no backing for what I claimed I could do, which was grow this company. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about administration. I didn't know anything about cigars for damn sure. I didn't know what the margin or markup was on a cigar. I didn't know how to run a website. I didn't know how to do anything. So all of a sudden I'm doing all of these things for this company. And I had to learn all of it every day. I mean, every day you wake up and you go in and it's like, all right, we have to order cigars for this company. And so I'm like, okay. And so I got all these retail shops and I'm like, how do you do inventory? You have to figure that out. It's like all these little things that come up. And so I'd say, the way I say it is, I drank from the fire hose every day for about a year and a half figuring stuff out. I made horrific, expensive mistakes and did all kinds of stupid stuff. And it was through that process that I got into the social media side of cigars. Because this company, this chain of cigar shops had also an e-commerce store.
Right.
And I was told, like, it's your job to make this thing profitable. And I was like, all right, I'm here to make it profitable. I didn't know how to run a website. I'd never been on a website other than like a blog or something. And so I did some research, and I quickly learned that when it comes to cigars, you can't market shit. Like, you can't advertise. If you can have ad money, no one will take it, right?
Yeah, tobacco is a taboo subject in the United States.
It is beyond taboo. So I went back to the management of the company and I said, so as far as I can tell, we can either advertise on pornography websites because they'll take our ad money.
Solid plan.
Plan B, though, we can do this social media thing. It's free. The only cost is basically time. And I think I got an idea for like a YouTube channel type thing. And management was like, I think the exact quote was, no, that's a stupid fucking idea. And I said, just let me try it. My background is in church music. I've done plenty of preaching. Like, presentation is always something I've been drawn. Fuck, I got my varsity letter in high school in okay? I'm that gay. And so I like, presentations always appealed to me. It's always been something I've wanted to sort of have involved in my life. And so I started doing this YouTube channel there. This is in 2016. And for 6 months just sucked. I mean, I just sucked. Everything I did just sucked, And it was like, I'm putting out videos and stuff on YouTube. They're getting a few hundred views. Maybe one got 1,000 views. I was super excited about. And then in late 2016, like near the end of 2016, I posted a video with the other guy who I was sort of managing the thing with, and it was called "How Bad Are Cigars for You?" Mm-hmm. And that video got like 40,000 views in a week, which in the cigar world, that's going viral, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we figured some shit out. So after that, I started learning a lot about how to make good content, and like everything suddenly started clicking for me. And after that kind of evolved into everything. That was a very different story than Cigars Daily, but that was the impetus of that. The company that I'm talking about, they don't even exist anymore. So they're out of business now. But so I think I can probably safely say this here. But when I got brought on their website the year before I started, I think they did like $15,000 in revenue for the whole year.
Bro.
Oh, gross.
Which is
Ouch.
just like, out of your garage, you'd be bummed out about that.
Yeah.
And then I
People
started
had
in
to be making more than that.
2016. I started as their ops guy in 2016, and I spent 6 months having a new website built. So so in the second half of 2016, I started that YouTube channel, and in that 6 months, we did 30 grand. Okay,
Yeah.
so double in half the time. And then at the end of 2016, that video hit, and I kind of started figuring out social media. And then the following year in 2017, their website did $700,000 in sales. So it was a major disparity between what they were doing before. So even for all the drinking from the fire hose and not knowing what the fuck I was doing, still managed to do what I promised to do, which was not do worse than the person I replaced.
That's all that's key, right? But I will say, in all honesty, I think you live every employee's dream, which is to fire their boss and walk them out the door and lock the door behind them and say, basically, like, kind of, I'm sure you're like on the inside, like, fuck you, like giving them the finger and just like walking off all strutting.
It authentically, everything that person did, none of it pissed me off because none of it was really bad for me because I didn't really care. I was working there part-time, just going to different shops. And this person is like, I'm getting the lights shut off in the middle of the day one day because this person didn't pay the power bill. That was that bad. I mean, like shops weren't getting open, so
That's
I
really
didn't
bad.
really care. I was getting paid. I was getting paid $10 an hour, and so when I let that person go and walked her out, I was like, I couldn't believe that it happened. Like that, the main thing I had was there was no like fuck you. I wasn't like vindictive or anything. Still not. She was a very sweet lady. She just didn't know really what she was doing. But like, I'm literally standing in a cigar shop being like, did that just happen? Like, holy shit. There was like, at that time, there was 4 brick and mortar shops in the e-commerce site. It was not a small company.
Wow. That's insane to me. Cause I mean, yeah, like I'll be honest. If I got the chance to fire my boss, I would, I'd probably relish it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that speaks volumes to you, Tim, if you don't mind me patting you on the back here. Like, you said yourself that you had really no knowledge of anything. You was a part-time employee at this place, and you said you can run it better. I don't know how long your boss actually worked for the company. And yet, you walked them out the door, and you did it. You had probably little less knowledge than the person you walked out the door, but yet you did it.
Well, I definitely had, at the time, I definitely had less knowledge than the person I fired. But my whole life, I've always been intrigued by things that I'm not sure if I can do them. If I find a thing where it's like, I don't know if I could I do that? That's the thing I want to do. I want to figure out what's the ceiling on this thing, on this intellect, on this fucking body that I got. Like, where is that glass ceiling? Can I hit that thing with my head really hard? And I'll take on a lot to do that.
I'm pretty sure that probably tires your wife out a bit too.
Oh yeah, she's exhausted from it.
You doing what again? You doing what again? You doing?
Yeah. She finds out about most of the stuff Cigars Daily is doing right along with everyone else by watching one of my videos.
She's just like, oh, that's the direction. Okay, that's cool. Like, I didn't know that.
That's what it was. It was the day that we put out the video announcing we were going to launch American Viking that I came home and she was like, "What the fuck, man?" I was like, "Oh yeah, sorry. I forgot to tell you
that at dinner last night. Like, no, at no point did it cross your mind at dinner. Like, hey, by the way,
didn't even occur to me.
That's awesome. Good on your wife because I know she's a trooper for having to put up with that. Because I'm sure my wife would be just livid if I did something like that.
You pretty much went over our second question, which I absolutely love. It was going to be, how do you manage such early success? And I don't know if you would deem what you actually accomplished early success or not. In my opinion, it is early success. A lot of successful companies in the cigar industry takes roughly around 10 to 15 years. But you hit the ground running, and man, your story, your uprise is amazing.
Well, it's like half of it, right?
Yeah.
The other side of it is the Cigars Daily part, and that's easily been the most rewarding, best part. I mean, the last company that I was at, that was truthfully a disaster. I mean, it was great. You know, I think we grew that company something like fourfold in the 2 years that I was sort of overseeing it. And that was killer. That was great. But then it was also a dead-end job. So when I left that, you know, my father-in-law was the one who actually pitched Cigars Daily to me. And he said to me, he took me out to lunch. I was getting ready to quit at that other company. And I told my wife, I said, I can't keep doing this. This is terrible. This company was so mired in debt. We just kept discovering more and more debt that this old manager had to find. We got sued by the state of Texas, and I got audited multiple times in a row because no tobacco taxes had been paid in like several years.
Oh.
On top of learning how to run a company, you're just getting butt humped into submission.
Learned all the wrong things to do.
Yeah, I learned all the wrong things to do on someone else's dime. And then when I left, my father-in-law, who's been an entrepreneur for 4 decades, a very successful one, he came to me and his words to me were essentially, Tim, do you think you could do that internet cigar shit over again if you had to? And I was like, yeah, I think I could probably do that. He's like, how about you and I are 50-50 partners? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And the whole arrangement there was, he was like, he said, I got 40 years of business experience that I don't, he's like, he was 70 at the time. He's like, I don't know who I'm going to leave all this with. I don't know what kind of legacy I'm going to leave behind if I don't teach all these things to somebody. And he said, if I invest in you, then I'm investing in my daughter. I'm investing in my grandkids. He's like, it's a win-win, right? So I went on with him, and he's been the most probably instrumental person in my life in terms of success. So you ask about managing early success. Like early on, success came from 2 things. It came from my unrelenting enthusiasm for cigars and videos, which is probably one of my great assets. and his advice that kept me from driving the motherfucking thing straight into the ditch. That's honestly, like, Cigars Daily was great, and I'd come to it with an idea.
No.
What the fuck are you talking about, man?
No. Let's veer back to the middle a little bit.
He's been absolute guidance for me, and always to the best of what we're going to do. I mean, like, Cigars Daily really is the result of him and I working together. And now, I mean, he's my partner. We share an office on the other side of the wall behind the camera. We sit together all day, every day, and we have this amazing working relationship. But managing early success, that was really, at Cigars Daily, that was all about, listening to wisdom and doing what I had learned how to do.
Yeah. So for me, because I think I discovered you in 2018, 2019, somewhere in there.
Really on.
Yeah, and I was like, man, this guy, he talks a lot, but he is a wealth of knowledge for certain things. And my wife I think she actually got tired because I had a smart TV, so I was like, boop, boop, putting on YouTube, and I was like, again with this guy, and I was like, I'm learning so much from this dude right now. Yeah. I was like, I know how to take care of cigars. I know what cigars to look for. And now I know how to retrohale. Now I know how to smoke with it in my mouth while I'm doing something else.
I was like, Dice, you got to watch this guy. Dice, watch this guy. Dice, you need to watch this video. And he would send me the videos, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch this guy. And I was like, okay, I'm a fan. I'm not a fanboy like my friend Austin here, but I can actually 100% see the appeal. I mean, I really do appreciate everything that you had going on. A lot of your cigar knowledge is great learning, especially for someone that has already been smoking cigars. It's like, I guess I kind of been doing that a little wrong, or there's really no wrong way, but I do appreciate what he's showing. Like, no, Austin introduced me to you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Austin. You're doing the Lord's work.
Hey, I mean, when you find something, and I don't even want to say like, oh yeah, it's a relationship, but like when you find somebody that's genuine, 1, and 2, that actually like cares about their customers, I feel like it's so important to support those people. Like, I'm part of Cigars Daily Nation on Facebook, and I've been a part of that since probably near the beginning. And seeing it kind of grow and just at one point I think it exploded with a bunch of people and I was there for like drama everything else that happens on Facebook. But like what I want to know is relationships in the cigar industry. Are they? I feel like they're super important because I've seen you interview Steve Saka, Drew, Jonathan Drew from Drew Estate, all of these guys from all the different bajillion companies out there. I feel like the industry is still one of those ones that's just built on a good handshake and a relationship, and it's one of the few out there that's still that way. Is that kind of how you feel, or?
That's a really beautiful way of putting it. If I can, I'd like to put it in a different light. Yes, cigars are 100% about relationship, but really what cigars are about on a larger scale is character. I don't remember who I was talking with about this today, but the character of a cigar, the quality of a cigar is absolutely indicative of the character of the cigar maker and who that person is and how they operate and the level of integrity that they have in their work ethic and their life. Somehow it shows through. It really does, all the way through to that cigar that you light up and smoke. And so, it doesn't always mean that the top brands are going to be run by good people, but it does mean that that you have to know who you're dealing with if you're going to do this stuff. And, I've talked with mega mammoth cigar makers, like the guys that I still idolize and look up to. And the number one thing I've heard across the board from all of them is I trust a lot less people today than I used to.
Oh, wow.
And that a smaller circle like that is part of it. In business, it sort of becomes vital to success. You have to figure out who you can count on, who you can rely on, who is a person of their word, and who you need to turn away from that doesn't have those things. Yes, it's an industry of handshakes, and I do a ton of business on a handshake, more than I probably would care to admit. But I've also seen, I've seen colossal deals go bad in a night. I've seen $100,000 deals turn from the coolest, most promising thing one day into the worst nightmare you can imagine the next. So, yes, relationships important. Yes, handshake stuff really good. But more than that, you got to be savvy as shit and perceptive of who you're working with. And yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, because I had the opportunity this year to go to TPE. Finally, I was able to make it out to TPE. I wasn't able to make it to PCA, obviously, as you called me out via video text message. And I remember man, there's a lot of people just doing they fill out the form, they handshake the deal, and then they just walk away. And I'm like, man, this is a business of handshakes. This is a business of relationships. And I think we talked to a Davidoff guy, and they kind of was like, oh yeah, they tried to imitate Dave Garofalo's Boston
the
accent.
Cigars.
And he's like, go to talk to United because it's over at Cigars. And I was like, of course, everyone knows, Dave Garofalo and those guys. But it was just funny to me because I was like, man, everybody kind of knows everybody, and it's just one of those things where really, you have to kind of get in bed with people to, especially as a shop owner, you have to be able to navigate those different relationships, those different personalities, to really conduct your business in a successful way.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately the question you run into is what's in it for them? What's in it for me? Because there is business that kind of ties the relationships together. So, what are we doing here? I've got a handful of people in cigars. When I say handful, I'm really talking about 2 or 3 people in cigars that outside of the cigar industry, I would go hang out with. I would go get drinks and go have a good time and, go do life. Right.
Right.
And a lot of the guys, I love them to death, and we always chat and catch up and everything like that. But you have to kind of be mindful of that. And from my perspective, from the seat that I sit on in the cigar industry, the binding thing in our relationship is typically money. So the thing they want is my money.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah,
Well,
and that's when it becomes more, that character aspect becomes more important, because when you're talking about spending a lot of money with a cigar maker on a new cigar or on a bunch of cigars in their catalog for a promotion that you're going to run, you got to know that they're going to be able and capable of delivering.
All right, everybody, that is our part of our interview with Tim. We're going to take a quick break because, man, that guy, we could talk for hours with him.
And we did.
And we did.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. Hit us up at Leadership of the Leaf. Let us know if you want us to bring on any other guests, or if there's any questions that you would like us to ask Tim on our next time we have him on, because I can almost guarantee you that we're going to have him on one more time at a minimum. And we'll be right back after this break.
I'm curious to what cigars my favorite podcast will be smoking for the next episode.
Well, if you're that curious, just go to Leadership of the Leaf's Instagram page, at Leadership of the Leaf, all one word. They post pictures of which cigar they're smoking before the next episode.
That's great. Not only will I know what cigar they're smoking, I can see a picture of it to ensure I get the exact same one.
Yeah, I usually leave a comment to let them know if I agree with their thoughts about a cigar or not.
Next time, I'm going to leave a comment on their Instagram page. It'd be like I'm part of their podcast or something.
Hey, everybody, I'm Tim from Cigars Daily, and you are listening to Leadership of the Leaf.
All right. Hey, welcome back. We just took a quick break. We're going to continue our interview with Tim Swanson with American Viking Cigars, Cigars Daily. Everybody knows who this guy is. I mean, we're having a wonderful conversation. I don't want to take too much more of time. I want to get right back into our interview, and please enjoy. Well, I would assume I would hope, let me say that hope is not a strategy to live by, but I would hope everyone in the industry is looking for that win-win solution. I mean, I want it to be a win for you, but it also got to be a win for us as well. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you want them to make money. I mean, for the love of God, like the industry supports, big portions of the economy in Nicaragua and Honduras and the Dominican Republic, even Ecuador and, Brazil. Like, there's a lot of places that rely on it. You want those people to make money. And so I think the bigger thing for cigar makers that I have a hard time. So this is I'll give you my two-faced thing, because this is something about which I'm very two-faced. On one hand, I would never want to do what cigar makers do. Their lives are just hell. I mean, the stuff they deal with. I mean, if it's not your workforce leaving the factory to migrate through America's open border, then it's the box factory can't produce the boxes, or it's the cigar rings can't be produced. Now, if those things are not an issue, you're worried about hurricanes coming in and washing out your topsoil on your crops, because you're going to need those in 3 years. So better hope that doesn't happen, or that your curing barn doesn't burn down. And that's happened a few times over the last year.
Yes. Oh, that sucks.
Once you get those problems out of the way, no big deal. You just got to deal with the last 4 years of container prices jumping all over like a rabid frog, right? And then you get things to the border and the FDA wants to fuck with your cigars. And then once all that's said and done, you've paid all the taxes and all the cigars are there and they're good to go. Not only do you have to find people to put in your workforce that you can trust to honestly go visit accounts and shine your cigars in the best light, but you need people to want your cigars. It is a logistical nightmare that I would like. American Viking taught me that just dealing with the factory logistics alone is enough for me to be like, what was I thinking? But
please don't stop making cigars. They're great.
But the two-facedness of it for me is that, like, I spend a lot of time yelling at people because of those exact delays where I'm just like, what the fuck are my cigars? They're like, oh, they were delayed because of a hurricane. Yeah. I'm like, that's not my problem right now. I need the cigars. I need the cigars. So, yeah, there I am being that guy.
My cigars, I got stolen out of my warehouse in Miami the other day. Like, I don't care.
One of them, I have a cigar. I'll give you this one. I have a cigar that's 2 months late right now. It's a brand new release. It's going to be coming out very soon. And I'm talking to the guy in the factory, and I'm like, brother, you're a month late. He goes, brother, we have a hurricane down here in Latin America, and then up in Texas there was like a hurricane, brother. And I'm like, and then you want to be like, not my problem, but you're kind of like, dear God, there has been a lot of weather lately. Damn it.
Like, shit. All right, I guess I can give you that one.
I'll give you that one, but only that one.
But you're still over a month. I need it.
Well, dealing with all these countries and everything, dealing with your cigars, what is your tasting process? Is there a process that you utilize for tasting cigars? Like, I want to bring this cigar in, and let me try it first. I'm pretty confident you try it before you stick it on your shelf.
Yeah. You know what? Not all of them, honest to God. There are cigars I will buy copious amounts of without ever trying them.
Well, I don't want to say any names, but I know there's some names out there that's
if they say
100%
on the box, then I'm
done deal.
Yeah, I'm going to go for it. But again, that's a great example of the like cigar maker character thing I'm talking about. Like Steve Saka's character shows all the way through Dunbarton, right down to when you light one up, right?
We love Steve Saka.
Process.
Yeah, the fact he's a persnickety, picky, like savant about tobacco, who doesn't give a shit about anything other than the quality. And because of that, every time you light up a Mi Querido or a Sin Compromiso, that's exactly what you get, right? You get without compromise, great cigar. And so, but no, my tasting process is pretty simple. I a lot of the reps will come in or cigar makers will send me samples of something and I'll smoke them here. And you got to kind of understand that samples play a little bit differently than the cigar is going to play when you've got 500 boxes sitting in front of you. It'll be a little bit different because samples just go through a bit of a different, avenue process to get to you. But yeah, that's typically I'm smoking them at my desk, and throughout the day I'll smoke stuff from new brands that want us to bring them in, or from a cigar maker we already carry is putting out a new cigar, or samples of a new cigar that I'm working on. There's a lot of that kind of work.
Nice.
That's perfect, man. I'm gonna quote you on that Steve Saka thing. I really like.
Persnickety.
Persnickety. You can also tell him when you talk to him that persnickety is the nice way of putting it.
It's funny, and I would love to meet Steve Saka one day, but I was down in Vegas visiting Dice.
Oh yeah.
And we went to 3-4 lounges, and I was like, hey, I want a Dunbarton. I want a Sin Compromiso. That's just what my palate's craving right now. Do you have any Dunbarton? And they're like, Steve Saka? We don't carry Steve Saka. And I was like, and every time I went there, like, Dunbarton, bro, no, we don't carry Steve Saka. And I was like, what is the deal with Steve Saka in this place? And I was like, I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. And finally, I think I emailed it in or I asked somebody, and they're like, he's just Steve Saka. That's just who he is, and he doesn't compromise on stuff. So people don't want to deal with him if they're bullheaded like he is. And I was like, oh, all right, well, that makes sense.
And I want to say this with the utmost respect for Steve Saka. He's an asshole, and but in the way that like people are assholes when they don't have a filter and they say what they're thinking. And like the benefit of that is you always know where you stand with the guy. Like there's nothing behind the veil. Like what you see is what you get, right? Is what you always say about honest people. What you see is what you get. And with him, that's the case. And like, I've heard stories about people going up to him at PCA and being like, tell me why I should carry your brand. And he's like, I don't fucking care if you carry my brand. And he'll kick him out of his booth and be like, you walk away right now. And you got to respect the guy for it. Like he doesn't want to work with anyone he doesn't want to work with.
I think he did that before when I was around. I 100% think I was at TPE or wherever, and he did that. And I shared that with you, Austin, as soon as it happened.
Yeah. We're like, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
It was just the funniest thing because I was like, Dunbarton, from what I could see, I was like, it's a really successful brand, and I was like, why would you not want to carry it? Like, Steve Saka is for anybody who's a master blender, right? You have the great. Steve Saka is one of the greats. And I was just like, why would you not want to carry his stuff? Like, it's so good all the time. And they're like, we don't deal with Steve Saka. And I'm like, oh, well, okay.
You're lost.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, the cigar industry is interesting because, I think a lot of us get used to shopping in stores where there's a lot of consistency, right?
Yeah.
You first of all the shit that you need for your house you buy on Amazon anyway, which is a store. But then if you need anything else, you're going to Walmart,
daily.
you're going to Costco, and no matter what Walmart, no matter what Costco you go into, it's relatively the same experience. But the cigar industry doesn't have that. There's no mammoth national chain of cigar shops where you can go in and get the same selection from the same people with sort of the same philosophy. So every cigar shop you go into is going to kind of be like its own thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like the mindset of the person who owns and operates that shop. And so, you know, you deal with some guys who are stupid, and you deal with some guys who are arrogant, and some guys are humble and great. And like, we got a lot of them here in Phoenix, so other cigar shop owners here that I have tremendous respect for. But then that's when you get walking into a shop and you get these mythical, like mystic things coming out of people's mouths that you don't understand. You're like, when they're all like, fuck Steve Saka, it's because, you know, you're going to find, if you ask 20 people in the cigar industry about Dunbarton, some of them won't have heard of it. Some of them will think Steve sucks. They won't like what he's doing. And some of them will swear by it, right?
Yeah, well, it's 100% their loss. Steve Saka, Dunbarton, they have the Sasquatch and everything. Your brand is American Viking.
Yes, sir.
Now, I would love American Viking. Why did you select American Viking? I love it.
I didn't want to get sued.
I love the
primary
simplicity
motivation for calling it that. American Viking. So that was a big dream, right? Have your own cigar brand. Which now, if I could go back and redream this dream, it would not be that, because American Viking is a lot. It's a lot of extra work. But I love the cigars, and the most fun of American Viking was blending the cigars, going through the blending process, which a master blender did. I didn't do. I'm not a blender. You know, the name American Viking came out of a really nasty trade name dispute that I probably shouldn't talk about, so I won't. I'll give you sort of what I can.
Okay.
You know, we had a trade name dispute on one of the American Viking cigars, and somebody was sort of getting ready to come after us pretty hardcore. So I sat down with that guy and had a conversation with him about it, and we were able to come to an arrangement, a really solid, because he was a really good guy with good character. We were able to come to a good arrangement. And so when we were forming American Viking as a company, we initially, it was called Tabacalera Minorista, which is like, you know, sort of like Tabacalera for, I think it was like retailer or something like that. And the goal was to create a cigar company that I could talk about, you know, all the brick and mortar shops that carry it, and point people to them, because I really do have a huge passion for brick and mortar cigar shops. I think they're really important to the industry. So I wanted to create a brand that could sort of support that. And then, you know, when we were getting ready to launch it, I was like, this Tabacalera Minorista name sucks. Like, it's got no personality. It's got no vibe. It's got no nothing. And
it doesn't really excite me either. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's just like, what the hell is that, right?
You focus
so
group this.
I talked with my partner, and he said, call it whatever the hell you want. And when we were talking about the Filthy Viking and what we were going to change the name to if we couldn't settle this trade dispute, we said American Viking would be a good name. So we called the whole company American Viking because we knew that we wouldn't get sued. So that was a big part of it.
Perfect. I mean, I like the name, is Viking, American. It kind of stands out. Kind of put a little play on both parts. I mean, I really appreciate it. I mean, this cigar we're smoking now is Obrigado, which, if I'm not mistaken, means thank you, right?
Brazilian for thank you, much obliged. Yeah, absolutely. This was the first exclusive blend that I ever had in the cigar industry, and I was so excited to get it when it first came out. It was an absolute dream come true, because I'd spent so much time rolling my own shitty cigars that this is the first cigar. It's like I did it. I made, you know, my own
Look at my baby. I did this.
Top of the world, Ma.
So when we you know, sort of, we took all of what were called Cigars Daily exclusives, and it was, you know, Box Press Rebellion, Liga Zebra, Filthy Viking, Obrigado, and Rico Barato cigars. We put them under the umbrella of American Viking. That was the first time that we were kind of like, all right, we're gonna form this, in more than just exclusive cigars you can get at one place. We're gonna form this into its own sort of identity, its own brand, and then we went from there.
Yeah. So it's funny. It's really funny because I think the first really cigars that I bought outside of singles was a sampler pack from Cigars Daily, and it had the Rico Barato, it had the Box Press Rebellion. I don't think the Filthy Viking was in there, but it was a couple like budget thick Connecticut blend type like bundle. And I remember telling my wife, and I was like, babe, I don't know what I've been smoking, but it's shit. It's shit compared to what I just smoked. And she's like, well, what brands have you been smoking? I was like, Gurkha. And she goes, well, maybe you should stop smoking Gurkha. And I was like, all right, fair point.
I think you're right.
I think you're right. And ever since then, I don't think I've picked up a Gurkha since, but I was like, I always come back to the American Viking cigars. I'm like, man, for budget sake, they have so much flavor, so much depth. And then the Obrigado, the filtered Viking, those are just, I think, home runs for me at least. And I was like, these are phenomenal cigars for being, I would say at the time, a new company, a relatively new company under American Viking. Because I was like, you go to some of these new companies. I think we saw one at TV. I don't remember the name, but they formed in 2023, and I was like, you guys are forming a brand new company in 23, like a new cigar company? Are you sure you want to do that?
You mean American Viking?
No, it was a different company. I forget.
Different, yeah. 23. That was a hard time to do it, and that was right before we won the FDA case, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That was like, what was everybody thinking? But yeah, the new cigar brands. There's a lot more new cigar brands now than there have been in a long time, and they won't last. Usually they don't. The average time that a new cigar brand lasts is like 18 months. Like they don't typically make it a full 2 years before they end up folding up. So, the pure fact that American Viking's been around since, whatever it is, 20. I think we actually officially launched the company in 2020. By the way, in March of 2020. So there was like 6 COVID cases in America, right? We're just getting ready to launch the pandemic, and we're just like,
silly man,
scared out of their fucking pants. They're so scared, and we're like, we're going to launch a new company, and that was a terrible idea because then like every cigar shop in America shut down for like 6 months, and we're like, hey, carry our cigars.
Like, no,
we're not even here to receive anything.
Yeah, I'll say a lot like the industry boom in like the 90s or whatever, where there's so many different cigar names and stuff. The people is just throwing cigars out there. You don't see them now. I can't even remember some of the names that were coming out. Naked Lady cigars and stuff like that. They're nowhere to be found now.
Well, it's interesting. This is actually not the time with the most cigar brands that there's ever been.
Oh,
it was in the early 1900s. There were more cigar brand names than there are today, by like a lot. Because everybody could have their own brand. Because we grew a lot of tobacco in America, and
True.
And there was a absolute fucking booming industry for cigars in America that was different because instead of importing the cigars from Latin America, we were growing the tobacco and had curing barns and doing the whole process right here in America. And so cigar boxes had tax stamps on them. In fact, in the studio right behind me, there's some boxes here. These boxes are from the late 1800s, early 1900s. They have stickers all over them that say, like, you cannot put cigars from another box in this box. That was a crime. But there were thousands and thousands of different cigar brands at that time. And then during the Great Depression, it basically completely wiped out the cigar industry. And the industry for premium cigars in America didn't recover until after World War II. So there was a relative dead spot for premium cigars in America from basically the 1930s until the 1950s.
Wow. Look at that, educated.
The more the shit I get off on.
The more you know.
Yeah, today there's a lot of cigar brands, man.
So you said you had a master blender do your cigars. Do you foresee you continuing that trend? Are you going to attempt and try your hand at blending a cigar?
Fuck, no.
Who's going to leave it to blenders?
So for me, a lot of it really comes back to what I was talking about at the beginning, which is the character of the cigar maker, right? Is that person honest and authentic about who they are and what they can do and what they're good at? I do not know about tobacco. Like, I know about well enough to tell you, like, how I can tell you how a bunch is made in the hand. I can tell you about how they, tear the leaves apart and fill it in to try to get the filling just right. I can tell you about those things from a tutorialistic standpoint, but the difference between telling you about what people do and having done it for a long time and knowing it, right? Those are two very different things. And I don't know that stuff, even the different combustion rates of leaves. And so, so I would always be looking to somebody who has that real material experience to actually create a blend. And so if I could make a video on like the worst executed cigar brand that that I'm aware of, I could make it on American Viking and make every point just beautifully because, it's called American Viking, but all the brands like Obrigado, Dama Velada, Liga Zebra, the only Viking cigar in the whole fucking line is Filthy Viking, right? And then, the boxes when I first did them, they were brown with a black cliche on them. They looked just terrible on the shelf. I changed that to gold. We make, the only thing I like about it is that we make every cigar in Robusto and Toro and no other sizes. And I personally love that, but like the Torpedo fans hate it. So there's a lot about the brand I could rag on, and maybe someday I should do that. That would be a great video. But yeah, you got to ask yourself when it comes to a cigar brand, how much of the process are they outsourcing? And so some brands are vertically integrated. They own field, factory, farm. You're talking about, your Plasencia cigars. You're talking about your Nick Perdomos of the world, the Garcia family and my father. They own their process. And so when you go to them, you're getting them. If you get other brands, and I'll use American Viking as an example, I don't own anything. Like, we went down, we had cigars blended for us with a factory that rolls the cigars for us, and they put our packaging on them, and they send them to us. And the blends are the best authenticity I can tell you that I can give you for it is that we sat down and went through the blends together there at the factory with the blender, and they are, in that way, our creation. But then even then, it goes all the way back to the character because we know to do it right, we had to work with the best of the best that we could get a hold of. And it took me 2 years to sort of to work my way into securing the relationship that we were able to get to work with American Viking. And now we got a factory that we love. We love working with them. The consistency is shocking to me how good the cigars are. Everything tastes exactly the way they're supposed to and look the way they're supposed to. And so the fact that we paired up with the right people in Latin America has been the difference between success and failure for us.
That's so interesting. It's funny because I remember a video that you did. It was Steve Saka, and you guys had a competition to see who could roll the cigar the fastest.
Yeah.
Which was by far, I was laughing the entire time. I'm not gonna lie, because Steve Saka just was sitting there talking while he was doing the whole thing, and you were like trying to focus and do it. And he had it rolled and like got it already done. And I remember you asked me like, "Oh yeah, the blender, how many cigars do you smoke a day?" He's like, "Oh, when I'm blending, I smoke like 17 cigars a day."
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not have palate trauma after that?
Yeah. Mouth shock.
Yeah. So is there a particular blender that you would love to collaborate with, your top tier person? Like, if I could collaborate with Oliver or Nick Perdomo or somebody like that, some master blender, right? Is there somebody on the top of your list that you're like, I'd love to collab with that guy to put out American Viking / whatever brand cigar?
So the current project that I'm doing is called Daily Edition Cigars. And we are working on a new blend for American Viking, and it's just taken a really long time. But it's going to be called The Unkillable. And that'll be a cool cigar. It celebrates the unkillable nature of people in the cigar industry, because in order to do this, you just have to be like a damn cockroach, Nothing can kill you. Whether you go back to pre-embargo Cuba, when the Cuban government said communism and we own your fields and factories, all the way to cigar makers going to Latin America. And then, a lot of them got driven out of Nicaragua by the Sandinistas, and then they've had to survive a lot. And then they try to sell their stuff in America, and our regulators are constantly threatening to squash them. These people are of amazing fortitude. You would not believe the lengths that they have gone through to hold on to what they've built. And so, in my mind, cigar people, the good ones, are unkillable. Anyway, that's the new American Viking cigar. But my current project is called Daily Edition Cigars. And the goal was, sort of outside of American Viking, which is our baby, and we make cigars for American Viking, was to come up with collaborative projects with other cigar makers. And thanks entirely to the audience of Cigars Daily and everyone who follows the YouTube channel and follows us on all the platforms online. Cigars Daily is of the size that there aren't many cigar makers that don't want to work with us really bad, and that's really cool, right? So So for me, for the most part at this point, it's a matter of a phone call, and then you get into the you get into the handshake deals, and I've done a lot of those. I was literally going through a spreadsheet of my handshake deals today, like making notes on them about where the different projects are at. But right now, I've got irons in the fire to create new cigars with Oscar Valderez, Oliva Cigars, Aganorsa, Room 101, El
nice.
Radio Mundo, Diesel Cigars. We're doing 2 with Diesel. Obviously, Dunbarton is doing one with Steve Sock is doing a cigar with us next year. And, God, if I forget anyone, I'm going to make someone's butt very hurt. I'm trying to think. We're talking about one with AJ Fernandez.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are, I would say, titans of the industry, of the utmost. The master blenders, I think everybody you named, and every company that you named, I've absolutely loved all of their products.
Yeah, respect in the industry by far.
Yeah, and it's awesome to hear that you've grown so much that you're just like, oh yeah, hey, I want to collab with this person. Hey, let me call them up, because I think you've had almost every single company rep or the person that like runs the company, like Steve Taka or Oscar or anybody like that, Nick Perdomo, on your show and interviewed them and talked with them about everything that they know and the wealth of knowledge that they are. So it's really cool to hear that you can just be like, hey, I got all these cool relationships and I'm going to put out these dope cigars. Because I'm to be honest, I'm stoked to hear that you're putting out more cigars. Because I'm sure my wife is not, but I am.
Well, good. We'll have a box of each one ready to go, man.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's been that part is really cool. It's a privilege. It's an honor for me to have such good friends, and I have had a lot of them on the channel. But honestly, you know what I did? That one of the things that was really positive for Cigars Daily is I stopped doing all that shit. In Cigars Daily Live, you used to see episodes, and I had a guest on every episode.
Yeah,
and then I stopped doing it completely. I just stopped having guests on, and our viewership for Cigars Daily Live literally doubled. It doubled. Because people were excited about the dynamic we were having together. I mean, truth be told, at the end of the day, you bring on cigar makers, and they all have great stories, right? Each one is a beautiful flower in their own way. But at the end of the day, you can only listen to so many people talking about the fucking wrapper, binder, and filler, and the fields, and the farms, and the seed, and like we all do the same thing. We make round brown, and so. You can only do so much of that before you sort of wear people out. And I also have this theory that people don't really give a shit about the wrapper, binder, and filler as much as they want to like hear a conversation like what we're having, like just talking about what's going on. I think that's probably better, for a community than somebody's tutorial about why their brand is special.
I mean,
that's interesting.
I don't want to toot our own horn with that, but exactly what you said. A lot of times when I'm talking about the cigar part of the industry, when we're having the discussion about the cigar portion, I get feedback. A lot of listeners listen to that and they kind of glaze over it. Our special sauce to our podcast is actually the leadership portion. A lot of people gravitate towards that leadership side because it's a little different. Even though we're still smoking cigars for that leadership portion, they actually they listen to the cigar part, but they're looking forward to what we have to say for leadership wise. They want to grow as a person as well.
Hell yeah. That's great. I like the leadership stuff. If there's more questions about that, I want to dive into that. That's fucking.
I mean, you pretty much lived it, because I appreciate your story you were sharing where you said you pretty much started from the ground up and you was making lots of mistakes at the beginning, but it was on someone else's dime. What better way to learn than to make mistakes on someone else's dime? And then you learn from those mistakes. And then you had your father-in-law, who was, in my opinion, a genius in the entrepreneurial world. Now you have almost the best of both worlds. You're traveling on a very predominant highway of success. You've already took the side streets. You're on the highway for success. And your passenger in the car is phenomenal. So I can understand exactly your trajectory that you was preaching at the beginning. All
right. So that was one part of our interview with Tim. This thing went on for like 2 hours, guys. So we decided out of the interest of time, we're going to break this up into a couple episodes. So you guys have to stay tuned for part 2. where we continue our interview with Tim. And man, there's just so much goodness in this conversation, Dice.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation kept going. I did block out 30 minutes time with Tim, but hey, we was enjoying our conversation so much, we kept it going. He is mixing cigar knowledge with leadership. This is just great conversation for all to have. So please, next episode, please tune in. Until the next episode, my name is Dice.
I'm Austin, and great leaders smoke great cigars.
Thank you for listening to Leadership of the Leaf. The comments and opinions expressed by the host and guests does not reflect the opinions of those that broadcast this show, nor does it reflect any of our affiliates.